Hey there, this is Natalie, and since Attack on Titan chapter 138 was revealed, a lot of people have been looking more closely at one of the Attack on Titan Lost Girls OVAs, which focuses on Mikasa. If you're not aware of this OVA, there are various Attack on Titan OVA episodes, and among them is a mini-series called Lost Girls, which has 3 episodes. The first 2 are a continuing story about Annie, which takes place right before the female Titan arc, and shows her solving a mystery about a missing girl, reminding us that sometimes the military police actually do some police stuff. But the third is a separate story about Mikasa, and has the title Lost in the Cruel World. Now, I'm going to go into what's shown in the OVA and the possible implications it could have about Mikasa in light of the events of chapter 138. But first, I think it's worth noting the origins of this OVA, because I do think there could be a lot of scope to read way more into it than was ever intended. This is because the OVA is based on a novel, which was based on a short visual novel, and neither of these were written by Hajime Isayama, the creator of Attack on Titan. Instead, the story for Lost Girls was written by Hiroshi Seko, who was a scriptwriter on the Attack on Titan anime. While the Mikasa OVA was the last to be released anime-wise, coming out in August 2018, it was also the first to be written as a visual novel, and was included with the 3rd volume of the Attack on Titan Japanese Blu-ray release back in 2013. This is important to bear in mind, because one way people are taking the OVA, in light of Mikasa's vision in chapter 138, is that it could confirm some theories. That something to do with time loops is going on, and Mikasa has memories of alternate pasts, or that Mikasa has a special ability to see other possible timelines. While this is not completely out of the question, and as someone working on official Attack on Titan side content as well as the anime script, Isayama may have told Hiroshi Seko things from the ending about Mikasa so he could hint to them in these stories. I do think we should probably be skeptical about whether something that could be so key to the character of Mikasa and the plot in general would have been originally put in way back in 2013 in some Blu-ray bonus content Isayama didn't write himself. I'm about to go through what happens in Mikasa's Lost Girls episode and the possible interpretations of it. But just a quick reminder before that it would really help me out if you considered subscribing, as I will be covering all of the latest theories, speculation and leaks in the run-up to chapter 139, as well as more Attack on Titan analysis as we discover how the series truly ends. So, in the Lost Girls OVA, Mikasa is on top of Wall Rose, thinking about how worried she is about Eren, and she has a memory of a strange dream or vision she had once before. Specifically, this vision came to her in the moment during season 1 of the anime, where Eren has just been eaten by a Titan, and Armin has told Mikasa about this. Believing Eren to be dead, Mikasa falls into despair for a moment as Titans bear down on her, just before Eren's Titan appears for the first time and starts dealing with the Titans for them. Mikasa could have died here if she'd lost her will to fight for any longer than she did, and it's here that she gets this vision. This is visually represented as a blue butterfly, which is all bright and glowing and is clearly not supposed to look like something real from the gritty world Mikasa lives in. It looks a lot like the butterfly from the game Life is Strange, that represents the power to redo things and change timelines, though the use of a butterfly in anything to do with alternate timelines is a really common trope, where it references the butterfly effect as a concept, so I don't think we're supposed to think of the butterfly as an actual creature that exists, like the Titan spine centipede thing, but just as a part of Mikasa's dream. Though if magical psychic butterflies are introduced in chapter 139, I will take the loss on that. The differences in this timeline all start because the men who killed Mikasa's parents and then abducted her, causing the moment where her powers awakened, were killed by wolves and never reached her house. Mikasa and Eren meet because Grisha was still bringing Eren with him to his appointment there, which in this version of things happens as a normal doctor's visit, and they go outside together and see the wolves and human corpses, and there's a butterfly, showing that this is the event that changed everything. The wolves run away from Eren. Time goes on in this dream version of reality, and Mikasa grows attached to Eren, even having a little doll of him. But because she never awakens her Ackerman powers, she's just a normal girl, and can't do anything to stop him getting beaten up for going on about the outside world all the time. He talks to her about Armin, but she doesn't get to meet him yet, and he talks about wanting to join the Survey Corps. The scene where the Survey Corps returns happens as normal, but in this reality, the Survey Corps gets disbanded and the gates are sealed up, so nobody can ever go outside of the walls. We see that Mikasa wants to see Eren more so desperately that she wishes for it, holding her little doll of him, and then her mother, who's now pregnant, gets sick, and Grisha advises her father to move closer to his house so he can be there quickly if needed, which makes Mikasa feel guilty for ever wishing that. Still, she does meet with Eren again, and he says he's been busy planning to escape over the walls in a hot air balloon that he and Armin are building. The point of this being that even if the Survey Corps is no longer an option, there's nothing that can be done about Eren's desire for freedom or Armin's desire to see what's beyond the walls. Mikasa can't bear for him to leave, so she says she wants to go with them, and here Eren gives her his scarf, telling her to return it to him in 3 nights, when they'll leave in the balloon, and that she has to be there before the 3rd toll of the bell. Now things get really strange. Mikasa is in a rush to reach the field that's their meeting place, which in itself seems odd, and the bells are already starting to toll. She's stopped by a weird street magician guy who calls himself the Man of the Mirror and is wearing a shiny mask. He says that as his trick, he will now hypnotize this sweet little girl and turn her into a killer. She talks to him now about how she needs to get away, and the whole scene has a very strange and dreamlike quality, but culminates in her stabbing him. He reveals that it was a trick knife and he'd used fake blood for the illusion, but that he really had used his hypnosis to make her become a killer. She runs away, the 3rd bell already now having rang, and finds herself in the field from the start of Attack on Titan by the tree, but only Armin is there. Armin, who she's never met before in this timeline, basically acts the same and says the same things as he had just done in the real timeline, only instead of saying that Eren was eaten by a Titan to save him, he says that the balloon malfunctioned and Eren pushed him out of it to save him, before being killed when it crashed into the wall. With the realization that she can't prevent Eren from dying whatever happens, Mikasa returns to reality from her dream. We know what happens next, but instead we return to the time where she's remembering this vision, which is later on as she's thinking about her worries about Eren as they prepare to go out beyond the wall, and that's basically the end. So what does it all mean? Well, if you've watched any of my other Attack on Titan ending related videos, you'll already know that I'm not personally convinced by any theories that there's going to be time travel or Eren replaying one big time loop over and over, revealed as what's been going on here the whole time once we get chapter 139. I could definitely be wrong, but I don't think that's what's happening in general. And I don't think anything about this OVA suggests that this is another version of things that has actually happened, with Mikasa having memories of another timeline. I don't necessarily think this is even supposed to be a possible future that could have happened, like the vision Mikasa sees in chapter 138, but instead more a what-if scenario that's supposed to help her understand that she can't control everything and keep Eren from dying. This being a what-if scenario and nothing more would be appropriate with what I said in the beginning about this being based on what was just some DVD side content from 8 years before the end of the manga. Now, the reason I don't think that this can be a real or possible version of reality is it just doesn't seem like it's supposed to be made up of things that could actually happen. There's too much stuff that seems dreamlike or symbolic, rather than like an actual series of events that could have happened to these kids. Would young Eren and Armin really have been able to build a hot air balloon? And would they really have been prepared to leave behind their families at such a young age with no real preparation, just because they no longer had the option to join the Survey Corps as a way to see the outside world? Probably not. They may have fantasized about it or talked about it, but they'd never have been able to build something like that in secret that was actually capable of getting off the ground enough to fail and kill Eren. It seems more like a manifestation of Mikasa's understanding that Eren would always have sought out a way to get his freedom, and that she couldn't control or prevent that from putting him in danger. The stuff with the magician really just highlights that this isn't real. It's a scenario Mikasa is exploring to find some peace when it comes to Eren. If this was real, either as something that had once happened, or something that really would have happened if those men had been attacked by wolves, why was Mikasa running late to meet Eren and Armin and held up by the magician in the first place, considering it was so important to her, and she's a kid in a world where it's not like there was a whole lot else for her to be doing. We aren't shown a reason she was late, as you'd expect if this was a real tragic incident, but instead, she just finds herself rushing there, as you might in a dream. In fact, just about everything about the way Mikasa is in this dream is strange. She's completely focused on Eren. The whole premise of the vision is about whether she can save him, and yet, in this reality, her parents are still alive. She's going to have a new brother or sister, and her own life as a child is far, far better than it ended up being in the main story. The real Mikasa isn't seeing this as a vision of what her life could have been like if her parents hadn't died, which is what it is too. She's seeing it as being all about what she can or can't do for Eren, which makes sense as a story she's telling herself at the moment she has this vision, but doesn't make sense as a vision of a real life that she could have had. But this, I think, is the real question with what's going on in the Lost Girls OVA. If this is just a what-if scenario that tells Mikasa that she can't stop Eren from wanting freedom, and because of this, she can't control everything and protect him from dying, then where is it coming from? Is it just Mikasa dreaming up a way things could have gone if things were different, exploring what she knows and feels about Eren, to reach the conclusion that there was never anything she or Armin could have done to stop Eren's death, which she thinks just happened, or is it coming from something else? Something related to her Ackerman abilities, the paths, or whatever else supernatural that there is going on in this setting. If it's Mikasa's own imagination, then it probably doesn't mean anything in terms of chapter 138. It would just be a dream or vision as a framing device for telling us more about Mikasa's understanding of Eren and her mindset about the danger he puts himself in pursuit of freedom. It has things in common with her seeing a vision of an alternate possible future in 138, but only really from the standpoint of how it's presented, both to Mikasa and to us as the audience. But it does seem to be put across as something that happens to Mikasa sometimes, and that could mean more than that she simply has a vivid imagination. The Ackermans were created as a result of experimentation into giving the power of the Titans to people who would remain human. And this could mean more than just their physical abilities. This could mean that Mikasa and other Ackerman characters like Levi and Kenny may have some other less well-known things going on that could allow them to be shown visions in much the same way we see Eren and Falco receive their dreams before they ever get Titan powers. If this is the case, and this explains why she has this vision, which helps her to go on and do what she needs to do, then that could imply that there's something that wants Mikasa to make certain choices and to make a certain destiny play out, and that's what's showing her these things, and perhaps also showing her the vision in chapter 138. The only real candidate, if Mikasa isn't creating these visions herself in Lost Girls, and it isn't Eren alone choosing to show her what she sees in chapter 138, is Ymir. But what do you guys think? Do you think Mikasa's visions are her own imagination at play, or something coming to her through her connection to the Titans as an Ackerman? Or do you disagree with all of this and think Mikasa actually is seeing different versions of reality that have happened in other time loops? Let me know what you make of the Lost Girls in the comments, and also let me know if there are any other Attack on Titan OVAs you'd like me to make a video about. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon.